everyone. Welcome to another TGI Friend Day. Today, I am here with somebody who she lives in Georgia, and I wish she lived closer because I feel like this is somebody that I would be friends with. Like, I watch her videos and I just want to come hang out. Like, I love your personality, your videos. You make historical fiction a little less scary for me and fantasy because I feel like we have similar reading tastes, and then but you do a bunch of other stuff that I'm like, well, maybe I can try it. So she is a doll. She is just one of the sweetest, kindest. Ashley, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
But thank you. I feel the same way about you. But hi, I'm Ashley. I'm from AshHeartBooks, and I'm on YouTube and Instagram, Goodreads. Not so much on Twitter anymore.
Yeah,
But
I've never gotten into Twitter. I just can't. And it seems like there's just a lot of drama.
a lot
So
of drama.
yeah, can't do it. Can't do
Very
it.
drama free. So
Yeah. Well, how
uh,
did you get into reading?
so I feel like this is the normal answer. I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of people give, but I always loved reading.
Yeah.
I was always a kid who had a book.
Mhm.
I think the first one I was like obsessed with though was like Babysitter's Club.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, that and Nancy Drew.
Yeah.
My grandma on my dad's side was a big reader, and my mom's a big
Okay.
reader. So they both would always give me like gifts of books, like the
Mhm.
whole Nancy Drew set or like Babysitter's Club, and
Yeah.
those were like the first thing I remember like binging. It
Yeah.
wasn't a thing back then, but
Yeah.
like because you have to go buy the next book. But
Well, that's what I was gonna say. How old are you? Were they still coming out when you were?
So I want to say the Babysitters Club might have still been coming out. I think Nancy Drew was over, obviously, because
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
earlier. My mom actually loves Nancy Drew, so she's the one who kind
Yeah.
of got me into that.
Yeah.
I want to say
Because
Babysitters Club might have been coming out. I don't know.
well, I don't know because I think so. I was born in '89, and I
I was born
think
in
they were.
90.
You're what?
90.
Okay. So yeah, I think they were still coming out. I know they were still coming out, but I think they were like so far ahead that I was
Yeah,
not like
right.
itching for the next one. But
Right. Well, and back then, like no one really, I didn't really care. Like
yeah.
I was just bidding it from the library. Like I was a big library person.
Oh yeah.
So if it wasn't like a gift, usually I was getting it from the library.
Yeah.
So I feel like I never knew even if it was like a new book, an old book.
Yeah.
Who knows? Like I didn't really care.
Except, do you remember like the Scholastic book fairs coming
Oh
to
yeah.
your school and that
Yeah.
just being like, oh my gosh, this
Oh
is so
yeah.
exciting. And I
I feel
remember,
like that is a clue that you're going to be like a future book nerd.
yeah,
You get like the sheer joy out of going to
yeah.
those things. Yes. And I
And
remember like your mom probably gave you like a certain amount of money
yes,
and you're like,
yeah,
okay, what can I get for this
that
much?
was exactly, I was like, how, like the book fair is coming next week. So I'm going to be a little ass kissy for a minute
Right?
and I'm going to see how much I can get at the book fair. And
Yeah.
yeah, good times.
I love them. Well, and like, so I work in a school now and they still come. And
Yep.
so even now as an adult, I'm like, the book fair is here.
I know.
It's
And
really
it's so
exciting.
exciting. And I hate like seeing now as an adult, especially like seeing the kids waste their money on like the
Yeah.
trinkets that come in the Scholastic Book Fair. I'm
Mhm.
like, come on,
Yep.
let's just take those out and stop buying sticker
Yep.
books and yeah,
Yeah, that or like the little things at the checkout with
the
like
erasers and
erasers that you're gonna
yeah,
lose in approximately 10 minutes.
100%. Yeah, I'm like,
Um,
kids, don't do it.
yeah. When I think because we probably didn't buy as many books, that was like the time to get like a new book. So
Yeah, because I don't remember like I mean I lived in a smaller town, but like I don't remember ever going to like the bookstore and like being like
yeah,
dazzled by anything new or anything.
right. I mean, I remember going, like I said, I got them for gifts quite a bit. And
Mhm.
then I think the first time I remember was when they started, we got a Target close
Yeah,
by. And
yeah.
then when Target, because it wasn't there until I was probably like 12 or
Uh-huh.
13.
Yep.
They have books. So I remember I used to go there and buy like the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants and stuff
Uh-huh.
like that. Those were the first ones I remember like going to buying
Yeah.
like from a bookstore. So
I remember, so Target, our town did not have one, and it was somewhere around that middle school time.
yeah.
There were MTV notebooks that I wanted so bad, and they were only sold at Target. And so I like tried to convince my mom to drive me to like an hour or two away where there was a Target. She wouldn't do it. But then like 2 or 3 years later, they came and they no longer had the MTV notebooks. And I was like, come on.
I know. The things you think about now that you're like, wow, my mom or my parents in general were like saints, because I was a pain in the butt probably.
That like I am terrified of having 2 tween girls.
Right?
Like, that is gonna
That's
be
a rough time.
a doozy. They're great now, but like that from like 11 to 16, I'm
Yeah.
not looking forward to that.
Yeah. And I feel like I was a pretty easy child as far as like, I never really like rebelled or anything. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I honestly
Right.
think I'm a little odd for not
Yeah.
rebelling. But I just never did. But even like just the attitude and like
Well,
I don't
and
know.
were you the kind of kid, because I totally was, that like at school I was an angel, and like anything my teachers wanted, I wanted to people please, I wanted to get
Yes.
A's, like I put my
Mhm.
all into school.
Yes.
So then I came home and I'm like, stop looking at me. Like I came home and it's like every negative thing that I had thought
Yeah.
of throughout the day, it's like I've been holding it together. I've got to just let loose on somebody.
Yeah, no, that's completely accurate. I was the same exact way because I loved school.
Yes.
And I had to like get the good
Yeah.
grades. I had to like the fear of someone like a teacher saying something to me, not even in a
Yes.
bad way, anything.
Yes.
Looking back now, I'm like probably not the healthiest like
Probably not.
attitude to have.
No.
Because I mean I was that way through like at least junior high, if not into
Yeah.
high school.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I ever got this says a lot about me, about a first B on a report card. I was crushed.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
um,
Oh yeah. I
yeah,
remember that too.
absolutely. So you go home and you're like, okay, well, I have this attitude now because I didn't
Yes,
use it
right?
earlier.
Like I
Yeah,
can't act out at all in school, but I would
yeah,
still be like a lifelong student if I could. If
right.
I
I
could
know.
just go keep getting bachelor's after bachelor's after bachelor's, I would do it
Yeah. And
for
yeah,
sure.
I will say when I got my master's, it was a slightly more stressful experience because for my field, I had to have it. So it was
Yeah.
almost like that was just more stressful
Yeah.
because I felt like there was some like, more pressure on it. And I was also
Yep.
working at the same time. So I just was like, so when I
And
finished those 3 years, I'm like, I am done for now.
me too. Me
Right.
too. Yeah. And like with your master's, it's a lot more writing and research and like less of just like exploring the fun
Mhm.
stuff. And it's definitely like it's a different type of learning for sure. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, I would not get more than one master's.
Yeah, if money wasn't a thing, we'd both be like getting bachelor after
Oh
bachelor.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I would
And like the college kids schedule and all of that, I'm like, you guys have it made.
Well, and like I kind of regret not doing anything like literature based
Mhm.
because I completely veered like
Right.
sideways. But sometimes I'm like, man, maybe I should have done that. I would have loved that.
Yep.
But oh well,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah. Whatever. Well, instead we're on booktube. So
Exactly. I'm like, it's
that
just a hobby. It's probably for the
yeah.
best.
Well, and that transitions perfectly into why'd you start a booktube?
Yeah. So funnily enough, I actually started it right after I finished my master's,
Okay.
because I actually had free time.
What's that? Yeah.
Right. I mean, I didn't have kids or anything, and I felt like I had been doing school for so long
Yeah.
that even though you do have more free time, it was like because I was working at the same time, it's like
Yeah.
it was very minuscule. And then I think I graduated in December, and I started it in like June or July that
Okay.
next year. And I've been watching it for years. Like
Yeah.
I've been watching it for a long time, mostly the YA stuff
Uh-huh.
at that point. But I loved it. And it was almost like a whim. I mean, I had thought about it, but when I
Yeah.
actually did it, I mean, I think it's still up, but I probably should take it down. Like I had my iPad and I remember I just like opened it. It was so dark.
Oh, I
um,
was just watching somebody. It doesn't matter who, like I can't even think who, but it doesn't matter.
yeah,
It was like a book called Revisit. And I'm like,
yeah,
oh, now that I'm doing regular in and outs and stuff, I was like, maybe I'll do that. And then I was like,
that'd be fun.
I don't think I'm going to because I don't think I want to go back and watch old
Right,
videos of
right.
myself.
Yeah. But yeah, I kind of just wanted to talk about books and kind of have like an outlet for kind of a hobby to do, to be honest, because I did have a little bit more time and I loved books and I wanted to chat about it. At the time, I wasn't really sure if I was going to be talking more like YA or romance because right then was kind of where I was starting to like veer off
Yeah.
towards romance.
Yeah. When
So I
was
kind of
this? What year was this?
it was it'll be 4 years this year. So I think it was 2017.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 2017.
Okay.
It's either, yeah, because I graduated in 2016, but it was like we had a
The
January.
next year.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of a whim. And at the time I'm like, okay, if I don't like it, I'll stop. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah,
Cool.
it was fun. And I have some of my best friends in real life are also book nerds.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so at the time it was kind of fun because it wasn't like I kept it from them or anything. I told them about it too, so that was kind of fun too.
Yeah. So do other people know about your channel? Like in your
Right,
real?
yeah, pretty much everyone.
Yeah.
No, like work doesn't,
Yeah.
just because I feel like that's a little weird. But
Yeah.
yeah, everyone in my like family and friends
Really?
and things like that. Yeah,
I
for the
get
most part.
so
Not
nervous.
at first, but like I
Yeah.
feel like as I got a little more comfortable and
Yeah.
things like that, I kind of was like, okay, well, what's the big deal? Like,
Yeah.
you
It
know,
really, what is the big deal? I don't know, but
right.
I'm
Yeah.
like nervous about it. I don't know. But so, okay, you said kind of YA and romance are kind of your
Yeah.
two historically
Mhm.
your
Right.
go-tos. What would you
Mhm.
say like are your favorite genres now?
I mean, I'd say these days, probably like, I mean, it's definitely romance, but in
Yeah.
romance, I mean, probably contemporary and historical romance are the two I read the most of. Although this year I've read a lot more like YA fantasy stuff.
Yeah.
And historically, like before I kind of started reading romance, that was like primarily what I read.
Oh, really?
So yeah, like a lot of like, well, I don't know if it's fantasy or like urban fantasy, but like the Mortal Instruments,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Like I read those when they first came out when I was like 17 or 18.
Yeah.
Whenever they published, that's when I
Yeah.
started to that kind of stuff. Or, I was really into like Shatter Me and by Tahara Mafi and that kind of stuff. So now I'd say I definitely read mostly contemporary and historical, and then I love fantasy romance a lot.
Mhm.
Um,
So, okay, so like hearing you say that, I'm like, I will never read that, but I think I will because I don't like historical romance. And yet you like I always associate you with the Smythe Smith Quartet
mhm.
by Julia Quinn.
They're so
And
good.
I picked up the first one and loved it. Like
Yeah,
I think it is the only historical romance I have read that I liked. And so
yeah.
that's where I'm saying, like, now you talking about these fantasies, I'm like, maybe I'll try it. Maybe I'll
I
like,
mean, I think at the core, a lot of books have the same thing, right? They have a lot of
yeah,
the same tropes, they have a lot of the same themes, they have the romance. So for
yep,
me, that's why I'm such a like, I love finding the tropes that I like because I
yes,
always say, I'm like, if you can find the trope you like, it doesn't really matter the
the
genre.
context. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's why for me, like with historical, that was kind of my way into is like, okay, let me find these that I really like. And then I kind of went off of it. So
So with fantasy, with specifically those ones you mentioned, will I feel stupid?
no, okay. That is the reason I like YA fantasy over adult
Okay.
fantasy. So
Okay.
like growing up, my brother read fantasy, like adult fantasy,
Yeah.
like my whole growing up childhood because
Yeah.
he read a lot too. And I never really was interested. Like I read a few, like I read like the Terry, was it Good Kind, the Sword of Truth series, I think it was. It was a big fat book. I remember being sick
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
just give it to me.
Yeah.
But like I was really daunted, like overwhelmed by
Yeah.
those. So I think the YA ones are a really good way to get the same
Okay.
feeling,
Yeah.
but it's that, I mean, I always think they're technically, yeah, they're written for a younger audience, but I just think they have less like gore, less
Yes.
kind of less world building in a way because they're
Yeah.
not quite as
They're just a
dense.
little simpler. Yeah.
Yeah, so but at the same time, I mean, there's some amazing writers who do a really, wonderful job. So yeah, I think you should try YA fantasy
Okay.
before you
Okay.
go into regular.
Maybe I will. Maybe I will. I don't know. I
Yeah,
need to do it when I'm like in a good like reading, like
yeah,
when I'm really motivated and stuff,
yeah,
and
yeah.
See
Or
what
try a fantasy romance. I always think if someone already likes romance, I'm like, that's a great way in too.
yeah, you
So,
can transition that way.
mhm.
Yeah. So what are some of your favorite tropes?
Let's see. I love a marriage of convenience, especially in historical.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite work as well in contemporary because I mean, it just doesn't work as well. But back in the day, I love it. I think it's that forced proximity, right?
Well, and I feel like the stakes are lower nowadays because it's like if you get marriage of convenience, well, you can get an annulment or to
Exactly.
avoid, like
It
all of
doesn't
that.
it's not
It's
as
really
big
easy
of a
to end
deal.
it.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think that's a favorite. I think there's such tension in those, especially when, like you said, the stakes are so high. You have to kind of learn how to get along. Usually they're kind of having to intermingle their lives, but they don't really know each other. And I'm like,
Yep.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I love a good like one bed trope.
Uh-huh.
So, and that's in modern and in regular. I
Yeah.
just think, like you said, the stakes are higher because obviously, like, if something happens in said bed in the historical setting, it's a lot more of a problem than
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
regular times. So yeah, and I do love a good like opposites attract,
Mhm.
like the bad guy. And less so recently. I feel like I kind of went through a phase where that was like my thing, and I'm
Like
like, yeah, I need like
bad boy,
the
sweet
bad
girl.
boy and the
Yeah.
good girl, and now I'm like, I
Yeah.
kind of like the cinnamon roll a little bit more. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you prefer friends to lovers or enemies to lovers?
enemies to lovers.
Yeah,
Uh,
really?
yeah, and you like friends to lovers a lot, right?
Yeah.
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 And I used to not like it at all, friends to lovers. I
Yeah.
was kind of like, it just doesn't make sense. Like these two people have known each other this long. Why didn't they do
Why
something before
now?
that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I've read a few in the past like year or two that's kind of made me change my mind to be
Yeah.
like, maybe I do like this
Yeah.
after all.
It can definitely be done poorly or it can be done well. I mean,
Yeah. And that's
it's
kind of the same for all of them. That's
yeah.
why when someone's
Yeah.
like, oh, what will you not read? I'm like, well, I mean, there are
Yeah.
a few things, and I'm like, maybe not that.
Yeah.
But if it's done well by an author, like I know Brittany Cherry does a lot of friends to lovers, and she
Yeah.
is a great writer. So
Yeah.
a few of hers have been great.
Yeah.
And then I just read Kennedy Ryan's, what's the one with Ezra and
Queen
Kimba?
move.
Queen Move. I just read
Yeah.
that. Was it last month? And I loved that, and that's
You
for
did?
sure. Yeah.
I didn't. And
Really?
I don't know. I think though, because I had it like hyped in my head to be
Okay.
like a 5-star book. And so then I think I was just like, it was all
Yeah.
right.
See,
I think the hype got me.
absolutely. I read the first two like last year, and they were like two of my top books of the year.
Yeah.
So I didn't read it right away because I was
Uh-huh.
kind of afraid of it just falling short.
Yep.
So I read it, I think it was in January, or maybe it was February. Yeah, February. And I listened on audio, and it was a
Oh,
really,
really?
yeah, maybe that would help too. It was a
Yeah.
really good audiobook.
Well,
That
and
can
I
kind
have
of,
not read the first two. And so maybe like so The Simple Wild. Have you read that?
yes.
Yeah, I like that one. And that one, so I read The Simple Wild and then Wild at Heart like back to back.
Yeah.
And I did not love Wild at Heart, but then
Yeah.
I just read Forever Wild in like January and I really enjoyed it. Not
Mhm.
because it was that great, but I think because there was like time between that, then I was like, oh, Kella and Jonah, and oh, a lot,
Right.
like there's,
Yeah.
it's like that kind of not nostalgia, but like kind
Yeah.
of,
Right. No, I completely agree. And I think sometimes when like you read them as they come out, there is like
yeah.
a further gap between them, that sometimes does make you like miss them and you want to
Yes.
revisit. And it's
Yeah.
almost like even the last one, was it Forever Wild? It wasn't needed. I
No.
mean, but it was almost like reading a fan fiction is how I saw it. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
okay, if I wanted to see where they were, like I would write that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think when I binge something and like someone else hasn't binged it, I feel like it is kind of two different like experiences in a way.
Yeah. I think so too, for sure.
Yeah.
Do you have any least favorite tropes?
Trying to think. I'm not trying to think. There was one I just thought of the other day.
Or
Well,
like anti-buzzwords? Do you have
yeah, I
anti-
mean, well, I hate love triangles.
Yeah.
I can't do those. If I get the vibe that like that's in there, I'm like, again, it can be done well. And there
Yeah.
are like, of course, books, like a couple of my actual favorite ones have had them.
Yeah.
But I have to have a lot of other things that make me
Yeah.
pick it up, or a friend that's read it and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I trust them. So I don't like that. I don't, obviously, I mean, I feel like most people say this, but any kind of like infidelity,
Yeah.
I just usually can't get behind. I mean,
Yeah.
especially even if it's like if whenever the book opens and they have a different like girlfriend or boyfriend,
Mhm.
and then that one sometimes it's hard. It's not really a trope, but that it
Yeah.
takes a lot, especially because it's like, okay, well, you're just saying this person's horrible, and then you're
Right.
moving on, like, okay,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I don't think any tropes I really, I'm not a massive Secret Baby fan.
Nope. Hate
Yeah,
that one.
I'm gonna
Hate
say,
that.
I know some people really like those.
I I didn't know people liked it until I talked to Steph from Steph's Romance
Yeah.
Talk, and I was like, "You what?"
Yeah, I've talked to a couple people who really like them. They're like, yeah, it's so much drama. I'm like, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but like that's a
Um,
baby.
I know.
And yeah.
I can't keep like when I say I can't keep secrets like from other people. Like
Yeah,
I stress about that. Like I'm such
me
an
too.
open book that I'm like,
Too.
I
Yeah.
don't think I could keep the secret and not feel like so guilty for keeping it. So
Well, and like having kids now, it's like I think there would be some questions from your kids, especially, and like
yeah,
from your family, like,
yeah.
who's the dad? Did you tell him? Like, I don't
Exactly.
know. That's what,
Kids are way too inquisitive. I mean, it's one thing if it's a secret baby and it's only like a secret until like the baby's born.
yeah.
But if it's been like 7 years and then
Yeah.
you find out, that's where I'm like, all right.
Secret
So
babies, accidental babies, like
yeah.
all of that. I just am
Yeah. And I
not.
like kids in books. I know some people don't
Yeah.
like them. I like
Yeah.
kids in books. And I don't have a problem with that. I just think they need to not be a secret. So
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, that's the only ones I can think of that I really don't like. Like that I'll see and I'll be like, oh, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna read.
Yeah. So who are some of your favorite authors?
Oh gosh. Well, I love Lisa Kleypas,
Mhm.
I'd say her, and then probably Julia Quinn for historical, or Joanna Shoup. She's got some great stuff if you don't want like Regency.
Yeah.
If you
Have
want,
you read Lisa Kleypas's contemporaries?
I haven't. I know I need to.
You do. Her Friday Harbor series is really cute. I really
Really?
like it. Yeah.
Okay, is
I've
it
only
the one
read
with
the
like
first two, but
Brown Eyed Girl, or is that the one with that? And that is that the title of that series?
no,
No.
that one it starts with Christmas Eve at Friday Harbor, I think.
Oh, okay, I've seen
Which
that in the bookstore.
yeah, it also has another name too, but and it came out as a movie this year. And then the second is Rain Shadow Road. And then
Oh,
I'm not sure there's 3 and 4 also,
okay.
but then
Yeah, I'll have to check.
she also has the Travises. I think that's Lisa Kleypas. And that one's a good
Yeah.
series too. The first one
Okay.
was her
Yeah, I
daddy.
think somebody else told me they read them. Maybe Sarah. Somebody's read them and said they
Um,
were really good.
yeah.
So I'll have to check them out. But no, I haven't. I've read quite a bit of her historical. I haven't read all of them because there's so many. But
Yeah. How old
um,
is she? Do you know?
I think I don't actually know for sure, but just based on like time, I want to say she's probably in her 40s or 50s.
Like, I feel like she's got to be older because she writes so much.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah.
Um, yeah, but I love them. And then for contemporary, like contemporary, I'm a little more like all over. I don't
Mhm.
know. For historical, I tend to like find somebody I like and then read a bunch of them. Whereas contemporary, I feel like I kind of jump around a little bit more. But I love Jennifer Armentrout. Like she's
Uh-huh.
like a OG. I loved her
Yeah.
when I was
Yeah.
like 18, 19.
I don't think I have any of her.
And then I still love her now. So
Yeah.
she's got the new series out, and I'm like complete trash for it. Like, I
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
help it. Yeah. Anything she writes, like she writes because she's written alien romances, she's writing contemporary, she's written fantasy, and it doesn't seem to matter. Like I just
Yeah.
love it. Just sucks me in her writing. And then I love what's her name? I'm like blanking. Lucy Parker.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. I
I
haven't read
love her.
those.
You
I
would like them. I
I
really think
bet.
you would. It seems like something up your alley.
Yeah.
They're just so good. She's
Yeah.
got the London Celebrity series, and I have read every book she's ever
Uh-huh.
put out. She's only got like 6, but and they're all at least a 4-star. They're so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. I need to try her. I've never heard a bad word about her.
Yeah, I mean, most people seem to like her, and I know she's got a new series coming out that's kind of like a spin-off that has something to do with like royals,
Yeah.
which sounds really cool too.
That's interesting.
Who
Yeah.
doesn't like that?
Yep. Yep.
We all are nosy and want to know what other people are doing.
Do
So.
you read very much YA contemporary?
I don't.
Yeah.
I used to, and when I was more, I think maybe their prime audience.
Yeah.
But I struggle to find them that really like impact me anymore. I mean, it's funny because I think the stakes are higher in fantasy. Like it's a different world.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it really works for me.
Yeah.
The characters tend to be a little older too. They tend to be like 18 to 20.
Yeah.
And they're trying to save this world. So it's like, okay, like I can
Yeah.
kind of get behind that.
Sure.
Whereas, contemporary, I've read a few that are cute. Like I read
Yeah.
Tweet Cute last year by Emma Lord, and it was cute.
Yeah.
It just wasn't like impactful for me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just love two things about YA contemporary. That I love like the first love trope. I don't know if that's a trope, but like watching people fall in love for the first time. I love that. And I love that almost all of them end in happy for nows as opposed to happily ever after.
True.
I'm a cynic, and maybe this says something about me, but I'm a cynic of happily ever after because it's just,
well, they're harder to believe at 18 too, right? I mean, not to be a cynic, but very few people I know in real life are with the person that they were dating when they were 17 or 18.
Yes.
At the time when I was reading them, I was like, yes, they're going to be together till
For
kingdom
sure.
come.
For sure.
But now I'm like, oh.
Can you imagine though? Like, I got married at 25 or 6 or something. I don't know. But like, I cannot imagine if I would have gotten married at 18. Like, it would have been doomed to fail.
I mean, I feel like I was a bit of a late bloomer anyways. And so I was, and not to be like back in my old days, but like kids are so much more mature. Like the 17 or 18-year-olds, even my mom, so they first set up, they have prom dresses at her, and they sell prom and like basically all formal wear. And so I of course always see all of them. And oh my gosh, like the dresses, they're like cut out the back and like the slits are up to here. And I'm like, first of all, my father would not have let me out of the house like that. But secondly, I just personally don't think I would have wanted that. I think I would have wanted the tulle like Cinderella ball gown at 17.
Well, and like just the pressure of the pressure for teenagers right now is so much. Like I mean, we're not that far removed from it, but I was telling my husband just the other day, like I didn't get Facebook until I was midway through college because you had to have a college email to get Facebook. And like,
I think I got it in college. I remember even when you could, my parents wouldn't let us have one until we were at least 18, I think was the rule.
Well, so like we didn't have to worry about our everything ending up on social media.
I think that's why kids are so much more mature too. It's like there's so much more to deal with and like handle.
Well, and they can, they have access to so much more that I don't know. Sure. I don't know. But again, the prom dresses and all of that, I'm like, maybe I'll.
No, I mean, don't get me wrong. They're beautiful, but it's like something I might pick out now.
Even some of them. Yeah. Like I just, I don't know.
It's interesting. Every time I see like a post, and that's just what the girls want, although it's interesting. She told me that a couple of the designers are doing like Bridgerton style.
Oh, dresses, really?
And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Because she was like, you've read that series, right? My mom's actually read it too.
Have you watched the show?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Really? You're happy with it?
I really liked it. I mean, to be fair, book 1 was not my favorite of the books. I really liked books like 2, 3, and 4 the best. It's not that it was a bad book. I just think it had some flaws. So I was kind of a little more lenient with it because it wasn't my personal favorite. I thought it was done well. I mean, of course, there's certain things that people could critique or
Sure.
say it shouldn't have been done or it should have been taken out. But overall, I mean, I thought it was one of the best adaptations, just
Really.
like visually and like the music and the costumes that I've ever seen.
I'm thinking I may do the opposite of what I always do, and I may watch it and then read it
I
because
think,
yeah, because I'm not super anxious to like read them,
yeah.
but I think if I watched it and then read it, I might like
To
it
be
more.
honest, I know a couple of people who like watched because the first one's just about the first book, and then they are gonna like read the rest before.
Okay. Get the
So you could
world in your
definitely do
head.
that too. Because if
Yeah.
you like it, great. If you don't, then you didn't read all those
Didn't
books.
waste that much time. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly.
exactly.
So, do you make TBRs?
Well, so I really struggle. I am such a mood reader,
I
like
get
to
it.
the core.
Yep.
And I feel like you make some awesome TBRs. And I always am watching and I'm like, how does one do this? It's
Yes.
difficult.
But well, and
So I know when
yeah.
I first started my channel, I felt like I needed to
Mm,
because like that was one of the main things, right? You did your TBR, then you stuck to it, then you did your wrap up. And I feel like when I first started, I was very much so like, let me play by the rules, like let me,
oh yeah.
make sure I'm doing it how everyone
X,
else
Y, and Z videos.
right.
Yeah.
So I did, and I literally just could not stick to that.
Yeah.
So I usually don't. Occasionally I'll do like a radar thing, like
Uh-huh.
these are on
Yeah.
my like radar. Or
Yeah.
like for the Black Author Readathon, I wrote down like a list of
Yeah.
books that I was interested in, and then I never like posted it anywhere because otherwise people are like, I thought you were gonna read,
Yes.
with anything. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I know, but I just, at that moment I didn't want to read a contemporary
Uh-huh.
or I didn't want to read a fantasy.
Yep. Yep.
So usually no.
I love making TBRs, but then
Mhm.
like when it comes down to like because it feels like a puzzle, like trying to fit everything together. But then I'm like, I don't want to read that.
I know.
I don't want to read that
Yeah.
anymore.
I mean, like I love watching like Sarah's videos who like
It's all about
she's
the
got
structure.
such a like she's like this challenge and this
Yeah.
challenge, but like I think I like watching them because they impress me so much because she
And
can
there's
just
such
stick
a
with
like
them.
foreign concept of like,
Yeah.
so
So
you're
I
gonna
mean
actually do that?
who does? No.
Sarah, like she like and she does and I think I talked about it somewhere, but Rainey and I were reading something and she really wanted to buddy read. And then she's like, nope, not on the TBR this month. If you guys can't wait, I'm not doing it. And I'm like, I would be like, okay, what's a TBR?
Yeah.
Let's read
Yeah.
it.
Well, and it's kind of the same reason I don't anymore. I don't request a ton of like NetGalley stuff. Because I don't love that feeling of like I have to read this right now. It makes it too much of a for me. I just get myself stressed out
Yeah.
over things that I'm like, why am I
Yep.
stressing out over this?
Yep.
It's just my personality, and I'm just learning to deal with it.
Yep. Well,
Um,
and I don't know if you're anything like me, but like I have to read the books on NetGalley by their date.
yes,
I
yes.
have
Like
to.
my
Yes.
ratio, like not to brag, but it's 100% because
Yes. Yes.
I can't not. So, and it's not even like I'm like, "Oh, I have to. It's like I have to.
Yeah, like yeah, no, it's like yeah, I could not be one of those people who have like hundreds of books from
Yeah.
years.
I mean, I totally understand how it happens because you
Oh
get
yeah.
on there and you're like, this one looks great, and this one looks
Yes.
great, and this one. And then next thing you know, especially when so I wasn't on there until a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And I really didn't think I'd get approved for anything, to be honest.
Yep.
And I feel like this happens to a lot of us. And then, especially the smaller publishers or like self
Yep.
published things, you're getting approved for.
Yeah.
Not always, of course, but
Yeah.
a decent amount. And then next thing you know, there's like 10 books that are due by this
Yep.
day. And I have had some I just really haven't loved.
Yep.
And then you have to write a review, and there's a whole bunch of like, I feel like moral things with like, okay, if it's a self-pub book and you're one of like 20 reviews,
I know.
and it's so I don't know. That really stresses me out.
Yeah. Me too. Do you know your Enneagram number?
I've never taken the test.
I would be so interested because I'm guessing you and I are similar.
Probably.
I would
What's
guess
yours?
you're a 2 or a 3, but
Okay. I'll take it and I'll message you.
Yeah, there you go. Please do.
Yeah.
So how do you decide what to read next?
So usually I do have like a list somewhere of
Yeah.
things, either new releases coming out or like recently like I think I mentioned, I've been really into like fantasy, like YA stuff. So I've bought a few. I've got like a TBR card that's never ending. Um, so usually I have a list and then I kind of just go off of what I'm feeling that month. If there's a readathon, sometimes I'll, like I said, at least make a list of books like in that genre and like, okay, I'll try and read a few, but that's pretty much it. So
Yeah. Yep. There's one coming up, a readathon coming up that I don't know when timing wise, if it will have already happened by the time this goes out, but it's called, what is it called? Touch Your Shelf. And I just think it's so funny. And so I really want to participate.
Yeah.
But I'm so readathoned out that I'm like, I don't
There's
think
been a lot.
Yeah, March has been full of them, and that's great. But I don't think I'm going to participate just because I know I'm not going to want to read those books.
Yeah. Do you ever do the middle grade March?
Yes. Okay. So here's my deal. I love middle grade, and I love Krista, and I love
any middle grade.
You haven't?
I mean, unless I was a middle schooler.
Yeah.
So no, I haven't.
You should. You should read Mr. Limoncello's Library.
Okay.
It is so cute. It's like Willy Wonka mixed with well, so basically these kids all get like this ticket to go into this library and they have to spend a night in the library. So it's kind of like Night at the Museum / Willy Wonka. And there's like this guy, this Mr. Limoncello has created all of these like clues and puzzles and things that they have to figure out on their night in the library, like, and some like Breakfast Club. Like, it's just so good.
That sounds really cute. I love Willy Wonka.
Yeah. And I think it's like 5-book series, but I've only read the first one, but I love the first one.
I feel like I need to check some out, just as like nice, fluffy, like feel good books. But I never have for whatever reason.
So my deal with it is I have a bunch on my shelf, but they're all like ones from kind of when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I just feel weird going into the middle grade section at my library because it's very segregated. Like it is very much in the children's section. And so, and like clearly my kids are not reading that. So like, I just feel weird.
Yeah.
And as a part of like my reading my physical shelves, I have counted all of these books and it does not include my middle grade. And so I'm like, it doesn't feel productive in the same way. So
my library is the same way. You have to like literally go through a separate door to get in there. Not that anyone cares, but it is like why are you in there?
Well, the shelves are so low. I'm like,
yes, I know. But yeah, there's a few out that I've heard of that I'm like, that does sound cute. So who knows? Maybe we'll all need to read one.
Yeah. Well, and I know lately, like they have been coming out with so many that are really like hard hitting and good. And I love like middle grade and YA graphic novels. But I haven't read as many novels.
So. Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah. Well, what was your favorite or some of your favorite reads of 2020?
Oh gosh. Okay, so The Kingmaker by Kennedy Ryan. I really liked those. The duet. Yeah. Those were just so like it had a good combination of like beautiful romance, but pretty steamy also. And then
have you read the Long Shot series? Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're okay. I read the first one.
Okay.
I didn't read so that she just knows how to pack such a like they always deal with really heavy subject matter, which I think is great and so needed. Right, like mental space and like you know what I mean? Like, but I did really like that one. The first one was good. But yeah, I loved those two. I thought they were so good. And also it had a lot to do with like kind of politics and you haven't read them, right? No,
but I know I've read just Queen Move, and so it hints at who the people.
I think you would like them, just based off of like I know somewhat of your.
I need to give her an
and sometimes I don't love politics in books, but in this way, it was almost like making a Camelot type situation.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I can get on board. What did I really like?
And the first two, those two follow the same couple, don't they?
Yeah. So it's Lennox and Maxim.
Okay.
And they're really good because they kind of take place over a long period of time too. Because they meet and then they kind of go apart and then they meet again, which sometimes annoys me, but these didn't. So
yeah, I want to know, how does she come up with her names?
I know, they're really cool names, right?
They're all very unique.
Yeah. I like Linux. It's a cool name. I'm always like, okay, I should make like a notebook somewhere for future children.
Yeah.
But that's a cool name. And then I really liked the Stay a Spell series by Juliet Cross.
Okay.
So the first one is Wolf Gone Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love those. They were so good. So the second one, I think they both came out last year, and I read those. Those were great. I always say those are like paranormal light.
Okay.
Because I think you can for sure read those if you like a small town contemporary, because it's like that mixed with like witches.
Oh, okay.
But it takes place in New Orleans, and it's like got werewolves, and it's really fun. And it was just like it was something different. I hadn't really read anything like that in a while. I'm trying to think.
Do you read cozies?
Okay, so I've tried twice, and I feel like I should like them based on like other things that I like. And I just think that it may be the right mood or whatever, because I've started, I think 2 or 3, and I just never finished them.
Yeah.
Because I can't
They're
handle
so
like
long, too.
scary. Yeah, but right, I can't do scary or horror. Like that's one genre I just can't do.
Yeah.
I do like some things that are more like you have to think about it, like kind of like Criminal Minds type thing, where it's like not necessarily the crime, but like why are they doing the crime? That kind of fascinates me. But I've seen a lot of people suggest cozies, or like people will say it even in the comments of videos and stuff. They're like, you should really try this.
I'm not huge into them, but I did read the series is called, I think, Witches When It All Began. By Adele Abbott, and it's about this girl. Her mom is like, I think her mom is about to die or something, and on her deathbed she says, "You're a witch." And the girl, it's just funny. It's very snarky, and but it's like 25 books or something.
Okay.
You don't need to read all those. Like I feel like with cozy series they become the same story over and over and over. But
I think I tried the one of the ones I know I tried was the chocolate chip cookie murder, which is like the first one, the Joanna Fluke ones, because so many people read those and they're everywhere, especially around like holidays. And they have covers with like little candy canes, like murdering somebody. And I'm like, I want to like this.
This Adele Abbott one is a lot more like more contemporary, more like cutesy than like actually murdery. And I think she's in the UK somewhere, and she always talks about custard creams, which I don't like. It's a kind of cookie, and it made me want custard creams so dang bad. I was like, just hop a flight to London so I can get me some custard creams.
Oh, I just want to be able to travel anywhere.
I know.
We all have such big plans. And
I know. Yeah.
I love traveling.
I do too. Except now I'm like flying in particular has never been my favorite thing. Like I love being other places, but actually like the process of traveling. And now I'm like, I don't know. I mean, when will we ever fly again? Like it's such a germ tube.
It's basically you're flying in a metal tube that now is like a metal tube filled with germs. So I mean, not that comforting.
And like a flight to London in a mask sounds like
that's
less
a
fun.
long time. That's a long time. Mm-hmm.
What were some of your least favorites of 2020?
What's funny is I really don't know. I'm gonna think about it for a second, but I feel like no one believes me when I say this, but I don't have a ton of books that I'm like, man, that was just bad. And I used to, and I feel like over the years, I am a bit like, if I'm not digging it, I just stop reading it. And whether that's a DNF or, because usually I'll call it a DNF if I get like halfway through, but even if it's like the first couple of chapters and I'm like, I'm just not feeling it. I just stop reading it. So I know a lot of people don't like doing that. So I think that's maybe why there's some that a lot more that they really didn't like. My Goodreads. hold on.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm like, I really think the lowest I probably gave a book was 3 stars
I was
last
just
year.
about to say, are you a pretty
Yeah.
generous rater?
So
Yeah.
I am, and I've tried to be a little more careful recently this past year, especially just because I felt like, when you get to the end of the year and you're like, okay, what are my favorites? Well, if you have this many 5 stars, it's like,
Yeah.
well, what were they?
Yeah.
So I've tried to be a little more, because I'm that person that finishes the book and I'm on like the book high.
Uh-huh.
And then I immediately go to Goodreads and give it a
Yep.
rating. And then
Yep.
2 days later, I'm like, actually don't think it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you'll often see I'll go in and just like probably dock it a
Yeah.
star. Or it's a month later and I remember absolutely nothing about
Yeah.
that book.
Yep.
So I feel like recently I've tried to be a little bit more, but I'm not a super critical reader.
Yeah.
And I'm so impressed when people are,
Yeah.
that person that really like, and a lot of the people I follow, I feel like are, because they're different than me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they'll like go into like analysis and like writing and style. And I'm like, well, did I enjoy it or did I
Yeah,
not?
exactly. Exactly.
So I just think it's different types of reader, and that's
Mhm.
totally fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just not me for
Well, and
that.
sometimes even like trying to figure out why I don't like something is
Yeah.
like, I just don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't
For
know.
me, it's just like, okay, that was boring,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
just like I forgot about it as soon as I finished it,
Yep.
or things like that. Whereas, and I think too, maybe because we read pretty much romance at this point, and like
Right.
the YA I read, I'm pretty careful about what I pick out.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm for sure gonna like this. So I don't remember there being a ton of
Well,
like,
and at a certain point, when you read this much for this long, you
yeah,
start to know what you are going to like and what you're
yes,
not. And
absolutely.
yeah, so it's
Yeah.
a little easier, but
Right. And I think if you're a little bit newer to just reading in general
yeah.
or reading this much, I think, of course, like when I was younger, I read books all the time I didn't like.
Yeah.
Because,
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, you didn't know what you didn't like until you read it in
Right.
a
Right.
way.
Yep.
But yeah.
Well, but like right now I'm reading a Deb Coletti because I read A Heart and a Body in a World or whatever it's called
Yeah.
and loved it. And so then I was at a fill-a-bag for $5 sale and there
I
were
love
2
that.
other Deb Colettis. And so I threw them in my bag and now like I'm low-key hating it. And like I think it's maybe going to be a 2-star. And I'm like, it's those kind of things like author highs. I get on author highs where I read
Yeah.
one thing and I'm like, that was great. I've got to read everything. And
And
then
that's so true too, because not every book from your favorite author is going to work.
no.
I mean, there's been even a couple from like my favorite authors that usually I do like them, but they're not like 5 stars,
Yep. Well,
Um,
and like this one was written so that The Heart and the Body in a World was within the past couple years. And then this one is from 2002. So I'm like, it might have
yeah.
been her first. I don't even know, but
There's been a few that I've picked up, not a ton, but a few that are older, and sometimes they don't age well, is what I
yeah.
call it. Like even some of the like whether it's social issues or
Yeah.
it just the writing style, or especially if it's a young woman, sometimes I'm like, this person is just not anything I can relate to, especially the
Yes.
stuff I found from like the 90s or like the early 2000s.
Yeah.
I think authors are just writing women a lot different now,
Which is great. I think
which is with a lot more agency and a lot more
Yep.
career. And
Yep.
whether you choose to have a career, you choose to be at home, I think
Yeah.
they're just giving them a lot more like personality.
Independence and yeah.
And I'm like, I feel like every time I've read an older book, that's just not there.
Well, and like old YA. So this one's like YA and it's like I think it's just like we've talked about, like the maturity level is so much different and
Yeah.
like the things it's just like she just seems whiny and
Right.
it's like just annoying.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
but
Yeah. So I
okay.
really don't have one as my answer. You can
Oh,
look through
good,
my Goodreads.
good.
I mean,
That's great.
it was a good year, I guess. I mean, not overall, but
Yeah.
reading wise,
Reading wise. Were you one of those people who read more during the pandemic or less?
less.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it first hit in March, like I feel like in March I read a lot, but then April, May, there was like at least a couple, like a month or so where I didn't read hardly anything.
Yeah.
It was just so much. I think we all were in this state of like
Yeah. What's
stress.
going on? Yeah.
But yeah, so I feel like I watched a lot more like TV or like movies.
Mindless.
Yeah.
Stuff.
So I read less. I mean, because I think I didn't reach my Goodreads goal last year, and that was the
really?
first year that I haven't in like 3 or 4 years. So
Yeah.
but it is what it is.
Yeah. Yep. So it goes. Well, are you ready for the rapid fire this or that?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm probably not going to be very rapid, but I'll try.
They never are. I need to like come up with a different name because then I start asking questions and they never are. But ebook, audiobook, paperback, or hardback?
Paperback.
Buy or borrow?
Buy.
Yeah. Is your library open now?
So it's been gone back and forth. So
Yeah,
it was closed and then they opened it I think they opened it for browsing for a little bit and must have had issues, closed it back up. So now you could request a book and they give it to you like at the front, but like they have like it barred off.
Yeah.
But you can still use the digital library, but mine is not very good.
Oh, yeah.
So I actually just bought a library card from like a New York library. And that's amazing because they have. So I paid for one because.
How much is that?
So I think I saw Izzy talking about it. Happy for Now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is brilliant. So I finally did it. It's from the Brooklyn Public Library.
Yes.
And it's $50 for a year. And I highly recommend because I've had it for like a month and I've already listened to like 5 audiobooks.
Okay.
And mine just had like, if I looked at 12 books, they'd have one that I wanted. Yeah. And now it's like, if I look up 12, they'd probably have like 10 of them.
Okay.
So
I saw Izzy talk about that and then I never looked into it. So good to know.
It's me and from Izzy's public service announcement.
Yeah, there you go. Indoor or outdoor?
Probably indoor, unless it's by the pool.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say living in Georgia, like there's only a few months where outdoor is pleasant unless you're by the beach.
Yeah, and like I grew up in Florida and my parents still live there. So usually the only time I feel like I read outside is if I'm like out in the pool. Yeah.
Meet your favorite author or meet your favorite character?
Ooh, probably author. I just think author would be interesting. I love the idea of, I don't think I have the skill to write a book, but I think that's why I'm so like interested in it. I just think they're like rock stars. Like, and when I've met them at book events or whatever, I'm like so starstruck.
Oh yeah. Because I'm like, how do you have that much going on in your mind? Because mine does not, like, I just can't. Yeah, I don't know.
I think so.
Book to film or book to TV show?
I think TV show.
Really?
There's some good ones. I'm a big TV person. I watch way more TV than I do movies.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even though movies, something like, Harry Potter was really good, or like, I never read them, but like, I love the Lord of the Rings. So like, those are great movies, but I just think you can go so many more places with the TV show and they're longer. And like Bridgerton, I thought was a really good adaptation. And I don't think that would have been as successful in making it into like a 2-hour movie. Yeah. Or like, I'm a big fan of the Vampire Diaries. That was so yeah, much better than the books too.
Yeah. Oh, really? Good to know. Classics or new releases?
Like classics or like old stuff?
Okay, first classics, and then I'll.
So classic, new stuff. I'm not a major classic person.
Yeah.
I've read some, and some of like, I love watching them. So I'm a big period drama fan. I love period dramas. So that's how I like to consume them.
Yeah.
I just don't love reading them unless I'm like forced to, by school or whatever.
Yep.
But then I think I'd be more backlist than new release.
Me too.
I mean, not old, but there's so many books that.
Well, and like, it's like, I mean, technically backlist, I think, is like anything not this year or I don't know, but like, I mean, things get backlist so quick that it's like I can't keep up. So yeah.
And I feel like when I look at my list, I read way more with my cup. Like, wow. I read way more. I don't read that many new releases too, because it's expensive to read that many new releases too.
Unless you're on your digital library, but still.
Yeah, which that has been part of what's been great, because I've read a couple new releases that like I looked at and they were, $50 to buy, and now I just listen to them for free. So
That's right.
there you go.
My goal is to like get this physical TBR down to like very minimal, and then listen to or read things before I buy them, and only buy what I love. But
I've been getting rid of so many books, like boxes of them and things that like I want to just have a cart and that's it. Like the ones on there I want to like love, because probably like you, when you first get into booktube or wherever, you start buying so many books and you just don't need them and you don't necessarily even want to read them now. So
it's like it becomes stressful of having too many. Yeah. And I just am a sucker for a good deal. Like the fill a bag for $5. It's like,
yes, I know. Or so many from like, I love used bookstores and I'm like, well, this is a great deal, so I'll buy them. Not know anything about them. And then it just doesn't work out that well.
On your shelf and you're pressured to read it.
Exactly.
Okay. No new books or no rereading?
Oh, no new books. I love rereading.
Really?
Yeah, I'm a really big, I love rereading.
Do you know
it's a comfort thing?
Yeah. Is there a specific book that you have reread the most?
Probably something either probably like a Jennifer Armentrout book. Like I used to love her Luck series, and I probably have read that like 3 or 4 times.
Really?
Or let's see what else. I've read a couple Lisa Kleypas books a few times, and anything that I read when I was like a teenager, I probably read at least 3 times. I don't know. I think I heard someone say this, and I'm like, that explains maybe something, but it's like it takes the stress away, and it's almost like it eases your anxiety when you read something you already know exactly how it's going to go. And I think that is totally why, because I also like rewatching like movies and shows that I've seen rather than a new one.
Well, and I recently talked to somebody, I won't say who because I think they come out the week after this one, but who is young, and they said they do not reread at all. And I was like, I wonder if in 10 years, when they're our age, if they'll be rereading these things, because she's like 18 now. And so it's like, I wonder if in 10 or 15 years, she'll be rereading the stuff she's reading now.
For sure. It totally could be. Or I don't know if that is like a personality thing too, because I know people who like will not reread. Like my mom doesn't even keep her books. She's a massive reader. And growing up, like she just donates them and gets new ones, like, or she gets it on her Kindle. So like for her, she never, and I'm like, what is this blasphemy?
My sister is the same way. She'll pre-order stuff and then get rid of it after she's done, even if she loved it. And I'm like, I don't understand that.
It's crazy to me, but everyone has their own way of reading. So.
Thank goodness, everybody's different. Standalones or series?
Probably series.
Yeah.
Even like with romance, I really like when they're all set in the same like town or world, or like it's a friend of a friend, and then they're all getting together. So that I'd say series.
Have you read much Debbie Macomber?
I've only read a couple, and you're gonna have to tell me where to start, because the ones I've read I haven't loved. They're not bad. They were just probably like a 3 or 4 star. So
I feel like, so with her, in general, like with romance, that are those like not episodic, like companion, where they're all in the same town or whatever. Those are like kind of just 3-star for me, except for her Cedar Cove series. But that was like what got me into romance. And so I'm wondering if it's just the nostalgia factor, or if they're is
that the one that the show is based off of? Isn't there? On Hallmark,
right? With Andy McDowell. I
haven't watched it, but I
haven't either, but I've seen it, and I think it's 12 books, and I loved them, but that was years and years and years ago.
There are definitely books that you look back on that you're like, I don't want to reread that, because I don't know if I'm gonna feel the same way about it now.
Like the Shopaholic series, I loved those when they were coming out and stuff, and now I'm like, I think she would just be annoying I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
only
I
read, I think, one of those, but
yeah.
there's other similar type books that I'm
Yeah.
like, or even some of the YA fantasy stuff. That's why whenever I do recommendations, I'm like, caveat, it's been like 8 years since I read this, so please don't hold me accountable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's the other hard thing about being like an emotion-based reader and a mood reader and like that kind of stuff is like, this may be a terrible book, but I loved it.
Well, they come like when you like need it. So like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like even I read one recently that I still think was a good book, but it was, people either loved it or really didn't. And I just really needed something to like suck me in and like keep me up till 2 a.m. I hadn't had that in like a couple months.
Right.
So I feel like maybe I rated it higher just because it like sucked me in rather than like maybe it was best book ever,
Right. Yep.
Oh, well.
Solo or book club?
What was it?
Solo or book club?
I mean, I feel like probably solo. I don't know if I've ever been in like traditional book club.
Yeah.
Although me and like I said, I have 2 best friends and we a lot of times will read books at the same time. So if that's considered a book club, then yes.
Sure. That's why I feel like buddy reads and booktube in general are like the sweet spot for me, because it's a lot more like book clubs are typically like monthly. And so then again, it comes down to that mood reading thing of like, I don't want to read it too early, but then what if I'm not in the mood right before? And
and if it's a buddy read, you kind of like, you get to pick if you want to read it. Like you ask somebody or they ask you and you can say yes or no.
Or you could be like, hey, I'm just not feeling it this week. Can we do it next week or whatever?
Exactly. Which for sure happens when I've done them. So I think book clubs are just a lot of pressure too. And the ones I've only been in like one, and I didn't always love the books that they picked too. So
yeah. Fair enough. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Yeah. What's your favorite like Starbucks drink or wherever?
Well, okay. So actually I get chai tea latte from Starbucks a lot. That's my favorite probably from Starbucks.
I love chai.
I drink coffee more just because I feel like you can't make it taste as good as Starbucks chai tea latte. But I mean, other than that, I usually go for like one of the holiday drinks. Like I love a good like like pumpkin spice or the gingerbread, or I don't drink it as much in the warm months because I don't really like the ice stuff as much. So if it's 95 degrees, like I have to have, I can't drink hot.
Cool. What's your favorite snack?
Probably something I shouldn't be eating as much of, like Cheez-Its or like goldfish. I'm like children's food.
Yep. I was just talking to Karen from Rather Be Reading. She's Australian, and we were talking about snacks for some reason or another. And I said, do you have Wheat Thins or Chex Mix or Gardettos? None of those. And I was like, I am so sorry. Like, you have never lived. I would probably be 20 pounds lighter if I lived in Australia.
I'm sure they have other things though.
That's what I would find other salty snacks.
Yeah, but I love Chex Mix too. So that kind of stuff, or those are my favorites. Those are the ones I have to portion out. Otherwise, I will eat the whole bag.
Well, because like when they have variety like that, and same with like sweet and salty or like trail mix or anything, when it's like a variety like that, like I feel like I need to eat like a full serving of each element. So it's like
when you have kids, so I feel like you're in that phase where like they're always there. I really don't. So like if it's also bad because if someone eats the whole bag, I know exactly who did it. So I love snacks though.
I do too. We do on Monday we do muffin tin dinners, which I just put a bunch of random stuff in muffin tins. And I'm like, I could do that every day. Like just give me a bunch of random stuff. I don't even care if it's like in a bowl. I would eat it all mixed up. I
make like adult Lunchables for work. I just put like, cheese, meat, crackers, something on the side, and just stick it in a Tupperware container.
And that's brilliant. Yeah. Well, that is everything. Thank you so much for chatting. This is almost the same as in real life. Like I wish we could just meet up and have coffee.
I know. One day we'll all have to try and
do some sort of huge meetup.
Be so much fun. Well, thank you for asking too. It was so much fun.
Yes. Well, have a good rest of your day and a good week. We're filming on Sunday, so have a good week.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah.
Good
All
luck. I
right.
hope your girls are sleeping better.
Thank you.